Yeah.
And it should be straight. Just low.
Little acknowledgement thing.
Is this your daughter? I didn't know. We used to dance together. Like,
Didn't have to work.
we did it? Why?
That's why I was last time.
Oh, no, no. Oh, yes. You have to work your event.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't have to
Your
work for
extra,
work.
you have to do extra.
Yes. Is that work or
Well,
the pain job?
I saw that after. Okay, must be nice.
For work.
For work. It was a nice event. I saw your picture, but
Yeah.
after, yes. Not that it was equally as important.
All right, we will reconvene the open session at 7:04 p.m. Roll call, please, Ms. Bell.
Good evening, everyone. Ms. Obadoza? Here. Ms. Lejano? Here. Ms. Benitez? Ms. Cardoza? Here. Ms. Dalmacio? Ms. Tejada? Here. Ms. Joe Chapinti?
Here.
Mrs. Ian Garrett?
Present.
Ms. Salahuddin? And Mr. Lee.
Here. Ms. Cardoza, could you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item 8, approval of the agenda. Dr. Gloria, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Item 9, approval of minutes from February 5th and from February 27th.
For, I think, was it the February 5th minutes, Rosie, where you noticed?
Yes, a mention of Braxton Lefko.
Those have been changed and the corrected ones have been added into the agenda.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
In favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Item 10, there is nothing to report out of closed session, so we'll move on to item 11A, Student of the Month. Ms. Baswino.
All right. Please join me in welcoming Sarah Olson, a senior at Terra Nova High School, for our February Student of the Month. Sarah, please stand. The Jefferson High School District Student of the Month Award is designed to recognize the many outstanding achievements both in the school and in the community that students in our district do. Selected by their teachers and administrators, the Student of the Month exemplifies the degree of academic achievement, leadership, and community consciousness we'd like to see in all of our students. Since only 5 of the roughly 4,400 students in our district receive this recognition, being recognized as Student of the Month is quite an honor. Here tonight with Sarah are her parents, Kimberly and David Olson. Sarah was unanimously selected by the Terra Nova administration, teacher, and staff as their Student of the Month. And having been an administrator at Terra Nova for many, many years, I can tell you that's unheard of. So that's amazing. Since joining Terra Nova as a freshman, Sarah has been a key member of the Terra Nova Associate Student Body, serving in numerous class office positions before stepping into the role of ASB president this year. A born leader, Sarah has clear vision of a situation and is not only quick to identify what must be done, but also dives right in to fix the problem. As editor-in-chief of the Terra Nova Times, Ms. Jenkins remarked that what is the most amazing What is most amazing about Sarah is that she has often thought of things that the newspaper needs before I do. And more impressive than that is that she often already has formulated a plan to solve the problem before we have even discussed what the problem is. By the time we talk, it's as if she has read my mind already, which is crazy if you want to read her mind. Other staff members share that Sarah is a conscientious leader who possesses an exemplary character and a unique ability to speak with adults on campus and with the same ease that she speaks with her fellow students and peers. She knows how to make people feel comfortable and at ease. In her 4 years at Terra Nova, Sarah has always balanced a full schedule. She has simultaneously juggled multiple AP classes, ASB leadership roles, including ASB president, water polo, swimming, and a role on the City of Pacifica's Youth Advisory Board. She has a cumulative grade point average of a 4.208, earned through successfully completing a full sequence of enriched and AP classes at Terra Nova High School. When carrying out her duties and obligations, Sarah uses common sense and exemplary time management skills, which enable her to manage more than most adults. Her teachers and advisors report that there is not one challenge that comes her way that Sarah cannot overcome. She is extremely organized and a force to be reckoned with. What Sarah is known for most is her positive attitude. No matter how busy and stressed she is, she always has a word of encouragement for her peers, whether they be her classmates, teammates, or other leadership students, or first-year journalism students. As another teacher remarked, Sarah is the most amazing student ever. Sarah has applied widely to universities throughout California. She hasn't shared a top choice, but rather reports wants to wait for acceptance first and then decide. Sarah is interested in pursuing a career in the medical field, but it wouldn't surprise anyone at Terra Nova if Sarah Olson wound up in charge of a very influential social or environmental movement or running for public office. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2018-19 Jefferson High School February Student of the Month, Sarah.
I'm gonna have the pictures too.
Put your hair.
Got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mom and Dad, we're gonna get a picture up there.
I have to take it.
Thank you.
I'll take
Marlene, I have to be in it. You have to be in it.
Oh, that's awesome.
No, I'm not in the picture. Okay, one, I gotta do it with 2 phones and then Horace. 1, 2, smile. Just kidding. 1, 2. Thank you.
Okay, you guys squeeze in, okay? And if you can't, you gotta be able to see me. If you can't see me, I can't see you, okay? Well, big smile, you guys. Open that book up. There you go. There you go. Super job. One more. Super. Thank you.
Just in case.
Trust me.
Ready? 1.
Did you notice that?
I can't see you. You're that way.
There you go. All right, 1, 2. You'd think I was a perfectionist. It's terrible.
Okay, all right, we'll move on to item 11B, Deal of the Year presentation.
Thank you. Tonight, Dale Scott from our financial advisory firm, Dale Scott & Company, is going to make a brief statement and present the board with the award the district won at the Bond Buyer Deal of the Year.
Good evening. This might be the shortest presentation I've ever made in front of this board. As you all know, the financing that you did and the election that you did for the teacher staff housing was awarded the 2018 Deal of the Year by a national financial publication called The Bond Buyer. Here's the celebratory banner. And I was going to do two things tonight. One, I was going to give the award to the board president. And then I've brought a short video of the awards speech that I wanted you all to share. It's been edited down a little bit. I got all the humor out of it. And if you can run it now, that would be great. Is that possible? Yeah. If I could get everyone here to just take a moment and think about that person that they met in their life that really changed them, not a parent, not a grandparent, but somebody that made you who you are today. Most of the time, and I'm willing to bet with you, that person was a teacher, or a coach, or a counselor. But what's going on in the country now, in many parts of the country, and it's not just San Francisco, and it's not just California, is that teachers in many places cannot afford to live in the communities where they teach. And this is making the districts, the school districts, it's putting them at a terrible disadvantage. They cannot attract and retain the best and the brightest of these people who are really going to be the shapers of the next generation. So the Jefferson Union High School District, they decided they wanted to try to tackle this problem. And we started working with them to put together a transaction to build affordable rental housing. And it very quickly became apparent that this wasn't going to work. You can't build housing at the current prices and charge below market rents and make the numbers work. So I started thinking, this isn't really the district's problem. This is really this community's problem. It's the community that is really suffering for this. So why don't we go to the community and ask the voters if they would support a bond to build affordable teacher housing in the community? And after we went through this idea to the board and the administration at Jefferson, they were all in. I mean, they worked tirelessly to get this passed by the community, which happened last June. And here we are now. They have architects, planners working together, trying to break ground within a year to build over 100 units, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom teacher staff housing within the district. So just because something hasn't been done doesn't mean you can't do it. So with that, I would like to, I'm sorry?
Are you getting choked up?
I've seen it before. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much for all your work on this, Dale, and the continued work that we'll be doing as the project continues on, too. So thank you very much, and Tina, for all your hard work, especially in working with Dale to make the numbers work, and definitely so that we can break ground later this year on this amazing project. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 12A board report. We'll start at the far end of the table. Ms. Obadoza.
So Westmore launched its first Saturday school on February 2nd. So it's basically designed for classroom intervention. So they would give notices to students who are frequently missing classes and have truancy issues or behavior issues, and then they go to Westmore on Saturdays. And it's to help Westmore recoup funds that are lost because of low attendance. So on the first day, there was 25 students in attendance, and they're currently working on getting more so we can get those funds back. We had an AP Parent Info Night on February 7 with a record attendance of over 100 parents. Our principal released a survey about revising vision statements to stakeholders and parents, and 56.1% of responders said they would like some modifications done to the vision statement. So our principal and her team are currently working on that right now. Our new teachers at Westmore are currently meeting with instructional coaches and the principal to review the best research practices. And basically, they recruited new people into the teaching profession, and they're also training teachers that are new to the Westmore community. So it's basically a way for them to adjust and like basically learn the ropes. And our ASB students are preparing for our second rally. It's our first night rally in 3 years, so the students are very excited for that. Our theater put on our spring musical. It's called Aladdin. And they had their first showing last Friday. And then the additional dates are March 7, 8, and 9. And you guys are all invited, so if you'd like to go. It's really good. And also our peer students have started their campaigns for the spring semester. And the 2 campaigns are about resources and self-love. So this whole week is about resources, and next week is about self-love. And it's going pretty well. It's like the presentations are being done for students or freshmen that are taking health classes, and also art classes, so, yeah.
Okay. And then for Oceana, we recently have created a second math advisory. So in our schedule, we have advisory for 30 minutes every day except Wednesday. And we had one math advisory for students to go to for help, but it was often like crowded and not enough tutors, so we made a second advisory for students to go to, and that's been helpful for them. And then we're finishing up our sock and hygiene drive next week. We've had over 600 donations of feminine hygiene products and socks, and so that's like a lot. And then we're having our Spring Fest next Friday, March 15th, and it's open to the community. We're going to be having games, different types of food, and performances. So you guys are all welcome to come. And then in addition, we're having a Fame Night in April, which is basically celebrating like the arts of the visual and theater in our school. And then in ASB, we're finalizing our last rally this year, and a casual dance, and our prom.
So at Jefferson, we're having a blood drive right now at the moment. Everybody is getting in their forms in order to give in blood for each student. Last week we had an AP information night with a student panel so students wanting to take the courses can get ideas about the courses they wanted to take, and it was very fun knowing all the questions that they had. Our Student Advisory Council is having discussions with admin about problems with student participation and work and dress code, because teachers didn't, so a lot of students were complaining about the workload that they're being put on having a lot of AP classes. So we were trying to get teachers to more communicate better and teach more of the same thing. So that's what they're trying to work on. And College and Career Center is getting more people, more students, like going into the Career Center in order to get scholarships and celebrating their acceptance letters, because a lot of them are coming in. And Mission Fusion a couple weeks ago just finished their Wonderland performance. If you saw it, it was very good. And that's mostly it for now.
Great. Wow. So I went to the Student Advisory Council meeting last night, and that's where a lot of students who are considering joining came to the meeting. So we have a bunch of them here tonight. The turnout was amazing, especially from Terranova. So we at the council decided to extend the application deadline to, I believe, March 22nd, and that will be shared on the website, and they'll do better outreach at all the schools. And I do plan to go see Aladdin, because a few of the kids who I watched grow up are going to be in it, so it'll be fun to watch.
Not a lot to report as of last meeting, but looking forward to the events coming up. And last week we were in the middle of a strike in Oakland. I'm a teacher in Oakland, so I just wanted to note that I did get questions from some of my colleagues and students about being a board member and the kind of conflicts that might present in terms of what they think are opposing views. And so, like last week, just to mention, I think it's important to understand that, as a board, as a district, as a community, that we're all fighting for the same thing, and that the kind of things that we saw students and families, a lot of them on the front line, a lot of them who, by a margin of 90% plus, supported the strike, put a lot of heart into the work that we do in education. So that really, I think, underscored that it was bigger than just Oakland Unified, but it's for Oakland. And Oakland means a lot more because they see that in California. We see that, and it's kind of magnified nationwide. So the kind of things we see here, we're making accomplishments that are recognized nationally, things that we trend even here in our smaller district, they have a large impact, and that our voices all matter, and that we have student representation to kind of echo that across the bridge. Sometimes it's really important to see that, and I think especially in the Bay Area when we're looking at housing and different issues that are affecting our community, that strike speaks volumes. And so we did ratify a contract. I'm proud to say that we did make some gains, and like the kind of relationship we have here with our entire district and community is the kind of thing we want to mirror everywhere else. And so just kind of want to share that, and yeah, shout out to Oakland Unified.
So I attended the PTA, district PTA meeting last night, so it's always great to see how the parents are participating in the schools and what activities they're planning throughout the year. So it's always nice to talk to the parents and get feedback and see what they're doing over there. Also, they're accepting applications for the Betty Schultz Scholarship for all the high school seniors. So if you're a high school senior, you are definitely encouraged to apply. They would like to give a scholarship, at least to a senior at all the high schools in our district. So the deadline would be March 31st, so you still have time to apply if you're interested. As well, I have a school site visit this Friday with Ms. Holland, the principal at Oceana, so I'm looking forward to that, and meeting with her so she can show me all the great things that are going on at Oceana, and I'm really excited to meet all the students and all the teachers that attend and educate there. So I will report back as soon as I am done there. And on another note, I personally would like to acknowledge and celebrate Women's History Month. As a minority, as a woman, I feel I'm really proud of that and all the things that women have accomplished through the decades and through the years. So I just wanted to read a few quotes from Maya Angelou, who I am very inspired by. She never went to college, but she has 30 honorary, or she had 30 honorary degrees and was a college professor. So that is something that is definitely an inspiration. So I just wanted to read a few quotes that kind of something that she means a lot to her, and that she's always tried to teach, us all as, people, not just women. So one of the quotes are, "I've learned that people will forget what you say, but people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." So another quote is, "Never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option. If someone knows you, if someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Nothing will work unless you do. You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them." And the last one is, you alone are enough, and you have nothing to prove to anybody." So, thank you.
So I went to the Brisbane City Council meeting because they are having a report out on the Bayland project and how that would affect the enrollment in multiple school districts, ours, Brisbane, and Bayshore Elementaries. And they also talked a bit about what they would like to see happen in the future. They are currently spending money on a consultant to do that when Tina could have given that presentation. So really, it's, I talked to Terry, and it's more about seeing what we can do to sit down with them and have those discussions together, so that we can plan together, because they're really dipping their toe in territory that's not their decision to talk about or to plan for educational and enrollment outcomes in our district. So, I mean, unless they want me to start looking into paving their roads or something. Right, so I'm hoping, Terry, I asked Terry, I think it would be a good idea to have a board meeting in Brisbane, just so we can talk to the community about their concerns and about the Baylands project and what we need to do moving forward. But when I say moving forward, it's years out. They probably are gonna, they projected that they may have 100 extra high school students, so not a lot. I don't know if that warrants a new high school, and that would be like 20 years from now. So it's kind of really premature to be talking about some of the things that they were talking about at their city council meeting. And then I went to our student advisory committee meeting last night.
Great. You know, I mentioned at the last meeting, but since Horace is here, I do want to thank you for the opportunity to MC the Sports Hall of Fame banquet. That was actually a lot of fun and truly an honor to be able to do that and celebrate those 4 individuals and honorees. So thank you for that. And also, you know, I just want to come back to this Bonfire Award, because I remember when I first heard it, it was kind of like, this is a thing, you know, and it's really kind of amazing to think about, you know, how far we've come as a district to be able to do this sort of thing and to you'd be recognized for doing something that's about to break ground. And it's really just pretty amazing that we up here get to be a part of this and help guide it, and really grateful to the staff, you know, Dr. Gloria and Tina and Kareen and Tony and everybody, and Stephanie, everybody who's been involved with this. So really grateful for that, and looking forward, not this week, but next week, to be over at Thornton for their career day. So looking forward to that. Dr. Gloria?
So I know we've got a long list of things to do tonight, so just a couple of things. For those of you who are new tonight, I was a math teacher, so I'm consumed with all things math. Did you know that? Oh. And next week at Westmore High School, they're dedicating the week to math. So I did forward a flyer to the board. There's an activity Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at lunch, but then Thursday all day next week, there's stuff. There are people coming from Skyline. There are career people coming in to talk about math, and it's going to be really exciting. So hopefully we can see some of you there. I think that's exciting. This weekend, Tony and I are booked on Saturday. We're going to 2 job fairs, and it's our goal to get as many people hired before the first day of school. And the sense of urgency this year compared to a year ago doesn't even compare. So we were even meeting with principals today to, that's right, start talking about who we need to interview, who we need to offer jobs, and you'll see some samples of our glossy materials. I just want my sash that I can hang up high that says, you know, our staff bonuses, because if I can get them to my booth, my dimples will get them to sign on the dotted line. So
is that how it works?
Gotta make sure we get almost all of our. Get them to come. Yes, we gotta get almost all. We need almost all of the math positions, full, almost all of them. You know, we've really been focusing on collaboration in the district, and that, you know, that's not something you do easily in a year. It's a culture that you're trying to shape. And I just want to give kudos to Ms. Baca, because she meets monthly with all the principals. I'm part of the meeting too, but she's the one who organizes it and facilitates it. And I've seen a real change in mindset of principals. So as you know, this year, Ms. Carey brought about the link crew through ASB. So her ASB teacher and one of her counselors kind of leads that up, and it's been really successful. So successful that Jeff is going to learn more about that and do a version, not exactly the same thing, but a version of that next year at Jeff, which, as you know, that's a great transition activity for freshmen as they're moving from one district to another. So that's just one example of the way principals are coming together now to share ideas, to work things out, and I'm just really, really proud of that. And then in reference to Ms. Salahuddin's comment about the city council meeting, so April 16th is the day of the board meeting that we're going to have in Brisbane. Okay, so it's the regularly scheduled meeting, but rather than having it here, Ms. Bell is trying to find a school in Brisbane so that we can actually have the meeting there and we can kind of build an agenda of interest around that. And typically, I will just say from experience, typically when you have developments coming in that are likely to affect enrollment or may or may not affect, usually it's the superintendent or designee who's working directly with developers. So Clay is setting something up for Audra and me to meet with the developer and kind of get that back into our lane where it belongs. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, moving on, item 13, consent agenda.
I would ask on consent agenda in item 13C1, if we can pull bylaw BB 9124 and place it in 15 for discussion.
Okay. For bylaw.
15B1.
All right, BB 9124, you said?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right, I've got that up. And we'll go, okay, we'll go 15B6 since there's a lot of board policies there, so that'll be 15.
You have to pull the whole item because the items aren't individualized.
Okay.
Oh, they aren't, okay, so pulling 13C1 to make that 15B6.
Okay. Entirety. Okay. Great. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda with that change?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, fantastic. All right, item 14, public comment. Ms. Tejada, do we have any comment cards this evening?
Yes, we do.
Again, just as a reminder, every speaker has 3 minutes. Ms. Tejada will call on the individual to come forward. And remember that the board cannot respond to anything directly. So just take your 3 minutes and come on up.
I will not be calling Marlita Para first.
Oh, you're sweet, thank you.
So, Ryan Mar Wyatt.
Well, good evening once again, esteemed board members. I want to basically just keep this real short and sweet. Obviously, we're not going to get added to any of the agendas here at the board meetings for any open comments whatsoever regarding our situation at Terranova High School. So, with that being said, after 3 requests and being blocked, and then, which Andy, thank you for your email for the reply, and then also an unblocking me, and then no answer for my request to be added to the agenda one more time. So I'm going to take it as that, and obviously we're not going to get added to the agenda. I just want to say last year about this time we were already making introductions to coaching staffs, and we were already in the midst of setting up all our fundraising, and we are already at the point where we were setting up our first dinner and all the staff support for the season and uniform orders and everything else. So, obviously now we are even falling farther behind with Terranova's football program. So, with that being said, I'm not naming names. I'm just going to ask 3 short questions and just leave it at that. Is it possible that this whole ordeal could have been perpetuated by an individual as a means of removing somebody of that they don't get along with and make it an opportunity for somebody of a more favorable personal, I would say maybe a friend or something, give them an opportunity to come in and basically take over the program? I think it's highly likely that that possibly could have happened. Is it possible that the persons that are actually choosing the new head coach for Terranova's football program are unqualified to be choosing a head coach for any high school football program? Are those persons ever involved in what it takes to run a football program? Obviously, we don't know because there's been barely any communication as of what's going on to us out there, wondering. Basically the families, the players, the parents, the staff, the former staff. We don't know what's going on. And my last question is, pardon me? And then my last question is I take quite a bit of management training, and I feel that we may be witnessing maybe some collusion going on here, obviously, and also exclusion. I think exclusion could have been the driving force, basically causing this whole incident to blow up like it did. And so, with that being said, I'm going to leave it at that and give others an opportunity to speak. And hopefully, at some point, we're going to start getting some answers regarding our football program. Thank you.
Good evening, Horace Henshaw. I have 3 topics I just want to touch on. The first, obviously, is the coaching situation at Terra Nova and the staffing. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not approached by somebody in the community, whether I'm in Safeway or whether I'm on the street or where I'm just, at a school or something. Somebody's asked me about what's the situation there. Well, obviously, I can't say because I really don't know the insides working at the school. But I do suggest that we expedite this situation because, as the last speaker alluded to, time is approaching that we need to act and get the football program going. I would suggest that there be some type of weekly meetings with the administration as well as a designated number of parents to be sure that everything's up to date and we're transparent on the action that's going on. Because if nothing is coming out as far as communication, then that goes to say, hey, nothing is going to be happening before the summer. And obviously, we know the program needs to be ready to go much before the summer. So I'm hoping that action will be taken. My second topic is last year at one of the football games, we dedicated the stadium to Coach Bill Gray as the Bill Gray Stadium. The reason that it was happened last year is that he was recognized for his many years of coaching at Terra Nova, and the program was put together pretty rapidly and on a one night that we really were not able to really do as much as we like to the dedication. It was suggested by the Terra Nova staff at that time, as well as the board here, that we would do something this year to really show that the stadium is named after this individual. And since the field is going to be turfed sometime this summer, it's time to think about planning for that event in either the last week of August or the first week of September, depending on the school schedule when that first game is. So I would encourage the staff to start working on that now to get that program going and where the dedication can be done, because obviously we need to erect some type of signage there that shows that it's going to be called Coach Bill Gray Stadium. So I would certainly be willing to even help out, assist, or whatever you need from my point of view. I'd be more than happy to be a part of that committee if you have one. And lastly, I do want to thank Andy for his Master of Ceremonies event at the Sports Hall of Fame last week, honoring 4 individuals, Pacificans, that went into the Sports Hall of Fame, which is done every year. Presently, right now, we have over 150 members in the Sports Hall of Fame, and Andy did a great job in bringing in the new 4 inductees. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Ryan Gordon?
Good evening. Thanks again for letting us speak. I'm Ryan Gordon, Terra Nova class of 1995. Like I said, my older son, Anthony Gordon, Terra Nova class of 2015. My middle son, Nathan Gordon, Terra Nova class of 2018. My youngest son, a freshman, Terra Nova projected class of 2022. All football players. I'm here again to speak on behalf of Coach Adams and his unjust dismissal as the Terra Nova football coach. So I've spoken at the last 2 meetings, so I think everyone here knows my position and how I feel about this situation. So rather than state all the reasons I think he should be the head football coach, I would like to inform you of some concerns that have risen over the past month since I was here last, and can only hope that the JUHSD board will address these issues, as I think many of us here feel like our concerns are falling on deaf ears. Last month, I sent an email to the board and Ms. Carey asking why the student athletes of the football team have not been addressed yet. I stated that with how upset all the football players were, How come they have not been spoken to by the principal and told that they were important to the school and that Terra Nova was committed to them and the football program? My son is a freshman football player at Terra Nova. He has not been spoken to by anyone. Also, his friend, who is a sophomore football player, I asked him if he was spoken to by the principal. He said, well, yeah, actually we were spoken to, but it was the vice principal and athletic director. My question is, are the football players not important enough for the principal to take 10 to 15 minutes out of her day to let them know that they're important and that we're committed to the football program? I don't think that's too much to ask. I also have a lot of friends. I've kind of been in the football community for a long time. So I have 3 or 4 different friends that are head football coaches at other San Mateo County high schools. I kind of asked them what they thought about the Terra Nova football program and who might be interested. They told me that from what they heard, no one is interested in the job because they saw how a highly successful football coach who was a positive influence on all the athletes he ever coached was treated by the Terra Nova administration. So they have absolutely no motivation to take a job where they feel like they're going to have no support from the Terra Nova administration. And that's sad. As we're trying to find a football coach, are we even going to get someone qualified? You know, I know we can't discuss personnel decisions and why decisions were made, but I'm telling you from talking to 3 or 4 San Mateo County high school football coaches who have said through the years that Terra Nova is a dream job because of the facilities, because of the support of the booster club, but now because of this situation, no one has any interest in that football coach position, which is really scary for the future of Terra Nova and the future of the football program. Thank you.
Well, I was here previously, so I thank the board again for an opportunity to address the board. I will try to be brief and not repeat myself. My son played for Coach Adams and had him as a teacher. My daughter is a sophomore at Terra Nova, and my youngest, I expect, will also go to Terra Nova. I don't think I need to really recap the large amount of support, appreciation, and good feelings that the community has for Coach Adams. And we're obviously all really disappointed and upset that he was released. But I think I'm going to apologize. I am going to repeat myself. What I said at the last meeting is that what we're looking for, above all, is transparency, candor, honesty from someone, from the administration or the board, because I know Coach Adams well. He's a friend. I have been close to what's been going on in the last weeks and months. And my understanding of what happened is that he was told we're going in a different direction. And as I said at the last meeting, that phrase is basically meaningless. Who knows what that means? Shortly thereafter, he was told in writing that he had violated board policies. When he asked how or why or when, he was told he was not going to be given an answer. And I know from my fellows back here that we were told we couldn't discuss personnel issues. Well, the fact of the matter seems to be that it's not discussed with us, but it's not discussed with him either. And I think that's really what sticks in the craw of a lot of us, that we're obviously against the decision that's been made, but I think as a matter of candor, honesty, and frankly respect, that an explanation should be given, if not to the public at large, to at least Coach Adams himself, which he can choose whether or not to share with us. But as we sit here today, we've been told nothing. And if it's the school administration's position or the board's position that we don't have to give you any reasons, then you could tell us that. I don't know if there's a clear answer one way or another in the board's policies or regulations as to who should give one or what type of explanation it would be. But I think any reasonable person would understand that not being told anything at all is just not acceptable. And as I said, I think it doesn't show very much respect for the community and the people who have a serious interest in what goes on with the football program. All of us here supporting Coach Adams are infinitely grateful for what he's done for our children, as are they. And I think as a longtime very successful coach. The community owes him 5 seconds? Oh, went 30 to 5 pretty quickly. There's just a lot that we owe him, and I will say very simply, we want an explanation. Whatever that explanation may be, we can respond to that at that time, but not getting one, I think, is just not acceptable.
Okay, we're getting to know each other, I guess, at this weekly meeting. Thanks again for your time. So my kids are graduated. My youngest graduated last year, and my other son graduated the year before. So I'm not at the school anymore, so I'm gonna probably speak a little more freely tonight. There are consequences in administration if you go against the grain, if you go try to swim upriver. You're not met with appreciation, and it's, I like the word collaboration, whoever used that. That's a lot of collaboration going on. Not collaboration. Collusion. Collusion, thank you. Okay. Also, I'm going to preface really quick. I know that it is hard to run the school district, and I can't imagine what it's like to run a school. But I'm going to speak on my experience as a parent whose kids are no longer at Terra Nova. And I would like to say, we've all heard the saying that if it's not broken, don't fix it. There's a lot of broken stuff at Terra Nova, and the football program is not one of those things. It is not broken. It is probably one of the only successful, continuously, year after year after year programs. So, here are some broken things at Terra Nova. Drugs, buying, using, and selling. A lot. A lot of fights, sometimes involving the administration. A mouse infestation in the equipment room and the locker room that was ignored and not taken care of until Karen Gonzalez, who cleaned it herself. Probably not a super healthy thing to do, but she took care of it. When my son was going through the math program, one of the parents came up to the meeting here and realized that there was a 40% failure rate in math at Terra Nova. Lack of availability of guidance counselors, not helping our kids take the steps they need to take to get to college. Lack of and delayed maintenance and repairs on stadium, including important things like the scoreboard and the speaker system. Problem with theft from lockers and outdated security classes. The theft in lockers, a bunch of kids got their phones taken. Ms. Carey wouldn't let Coach Adams lock up the locker room to keep the kids' stuff safe. It was just sort of a manipulation, I think, at the time.
30 seconds.
Inappropriate relationships between students and teachers, numerous sports with no coach available when season starts, a coach released for inappropriate sexual behavior with students, long or no response to emails sent to Megan Carey, very low enrollment, and it's getting lower every year. I could go on. On the other hand, Coach Adams' football program was organized, coaches were always available and responsive, he was always responsive and willing to talk, discipline handled appropriately with the boys. They have a successful record. The boosters raise $3,000 to $4,000 per game from the snack shack, plus money from the door that benefits all Terra Nova sports programs. Strong parent community support, raising $20,000. The community supported the football program. That's how much they believed in it. Coach Adams is a part of that. Sorry, I'm going to continue. It says suggested, so I'm going to finish.
No, I'm sorry, you have your 3 minutes.
Okay.
Since we do have other blue cards.
Okay,
we would like
it's
to have
1
other-
minute, you guys. Listen.
Got a lot of blue cards.
Okay.
We would like.
The wrong person is being treated badly here. The leadership is lacking. The leadership of someone who can't run a school, you can't run it based on emotions. That is not leadership. You have to think of what's best for the school, the district,
your time is
and
up,
the kids. Thank you, guys. Thanks for letting me go over the time. I appreciate it.
Well, I usually come up here prepared, and that hasn't worked out so far, so I'm just going to speak from the heart on this one. But basically, we have no playbook, no coach, our team is falling apart. You guys have not made it easy to work with you in finding a new coach. We've had one meeting on the selection of a new coach, and basically I feel that was just to settle our nerves as student athletes, as football players. It's not easy being a football player at Terra Nova. We're singled out a lot, and usually if there's a group of people doing bad things and there's a football player in that group, the football player will get the blame for that. And to me, that's wrong. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but things need to change. Tim Adams always stuck up for his football players, and for that reason, I feel that he got fired for it. He was trying to get football players into his 4th period class, and that wasn't working out. We waited patiently, and he felt consequences for sticking up for his players, and that's wrong. Most times, he was always there for us. Not even most times. He was always there for us. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, you took away someone that really meant a lot to all of us players, past players and parents, and I feel that's wrong. But thank you.
Philip Brakely?
I had an opportunity to speak at the first meeting, and I have just a couple points I want to make. And the first one is that my wife Karen and I raised an awful lot of money for the new uniforms that we had purchased just 2 years ago. The Booster Club had donated 2 stipends totaling like $12,000, and we had raised the rest upwards to $15,000. So we had an account of $27,000, of which 24 of that went to the uniforms. Now, these uniforms were planned to last upwards to 5, 6, possibly 7 years, and there was leftover account balance to maintain these uniforms in good condition to extend the life of them. And these are really nice uniforms. I don't think any other schools in the districts are wearing Nike uniforms that are custom made for them, and this was provided by the efforts of the boosters and the families of these past football players. Now, Coach Adams had always recruited a parent that would take care of the uniforms, which meant collecting them, preparing them for game, washing them, hand scrubbing them every night to make sure these things are going to last. So I just wanted to make sure that whoever is the coach can follow through with that process to extend this investment that we've made, that, again, I'll remind you, the district didn't have to make. Okay, that was the first one. Now, the second one, I just want to just go back in a little bit of history and remind everybody that when I was playing high school football, did you know that Terra Nova had a smoking lot? I mean, we had football coaches that, without naming names, routinely walked the grounds smoking cigars, chewing tobacco, and I even experienced coaches spit tobacco inside our ear holes. Okay, very unpolitically correct time. But you know what? They were effective, and they might have been politically incorrect, but that worked. Over the years, we've had this evolution into political correctness. Title IX, okay, for example. And just this past few years, my experience with Coach Adams, compared to those other coaches, he's come like a super long way from that period of time when I was a high school football player, okay? Especially adopting the do-right rule that Coach Gray instilled into his players, which holds them accountable not only in the public, but for their grades and everything else it means to be a football player and have the ability and qualified to be a football player. In my opinion, Coach Adams, who actually comes from San Francisco, okay, he spends the money to live in the city, and he commutes to San Francisco to coach for his heart, for his team, okay? Okay. I just want to say that there is precedent to reinstate this coach. If you just look back in history, a coach, Mike Diaz, had been fired for, things going on, but he was reinstated. Okay, thank you. I just want to keep those things in mind.
Good evening. First and foremost, I do not support the termination of Coach Adams from head football coaching position. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Jefferson Union District seen as a district where teachers can easily be hired and easily gain their experience and use it as a stepping stone into better paying districts? So when we have a coach that has been here for 11 years and is determined into not only winning games, but turning boys into young men and instilling important values such as humility, perseverance, accountability, hard work, and etc., why is the district allowing him to be removed from his coaching position? It is your job to represent what the people want, and the people want Coach Adams to be reinstated. This is all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. I think that was our last blue card, so thank you all for your public comment, and know that you've been heard, just like the past few times that you've been here, so thank you very much. We'll move on to item 15A1, college readiness presentation.
I'm glad you asked, because it was a good vantage point.
No, I can't. I'm not allowed to do that. Can you pass that down?
All right, Ms. Baca, college readiness presentation.
Good evening, President Lee. Good evening, members of the board. Tonight, I will be briefly presenting the scores from the October 10th SAT school day, where all of our students took either the SAT or the PSAT. And also, I'll be sharing some information from the National Student Clearinghouse of class of 2018 and their matriculation. So the SAT score, the SAT is one of the tools to measure college and career readiness, and this is one common data point that can be used to compare college acceptance. So before the SAT school day, this is the class of 2018, and it was voluntary for students, and they came to a site on a Saturday. During that time, we had 544 participants total out of the 1,186 students that we had. So that's about 46%. And when we administered the SAT school day last in the fall, we had 830 participants out of 1,078. So it's not 77%, that's about an increase of 30%.
That many students coming in on a Saturday is huge. So, yeah, trying to get my team to do anything on a Saturday was always rough.
So this is how our 12th grade students did during that day. As you can see, the mean score out of 1,600 is 1,011. And it is higher than the state's average and also the total group, which includes the United States and international students as well. So we had, again, 830 participants, and out of the 830 participants, 39% of the student met both benchmark in math and evidence in reading and writing. So again, meeting benchmark means that there's a 75% for those students to earn at least a C in a first semester college course, okay? So 39% met both benchmarks, 60% met the English part of it, and 42% met the math benchmark, okay? And again, it's higher than the United States score and also the total group.
Ms. Baca, can I make a comment?
Yes.
I just want, can you go back a slide? I just want to point out that when you look at the state and national scores, that's selective. You know, you have the students who feel most qualified who are taking it. So when you consider that 77% of our students took it, I think it really lends credit to the work that our teachers are doing in the classroom and the seriousness to which students took that exam. And as the state considers moving forward on changing what we give in the 11th grade, I think many of you would agree with me, it makes far more sense to have all of our students taking the SAT than taking the CASP exam.
I also want to let you know that we have about 1,000 or so students in the 12th grade level. So the students that did not take the test are the ones that opted out. Students in the life skills class, and also our ELD 1 and ELD 2 students who did an alternative assignment and also went on a field trip to the library to get their library cards. So
that's what I was thinking, but that's pretty much all. Okay. So we can have comment on this, and you can ask your question during the comment, and then.
So these are the scores by ethnicity. So again, you know, even when we did quite well overall as a district, there still exists a gap. So as you can see, all students got a mean score of 10, 11, and if you look at our Hispanic and Latino population, their mean score is 942. So there's 152 points gap. And also for African American, there is a 215 point gap. And I just want to point out that with Smarter Balanced Assessment, what we are comparing to, actually the highest scoring subgroup was not our white population, but actually it's Asian Americans. And it just so happened with the SAT, the highest scoring ethnic group are Caucasian students. So this is the SAT performance by schools.
I'm sorry. For SAT, these are the only ethnicities they're allowed to answer. Like they have to choose one of these. We can't break it out any further.
No, this is the only one, and it's the federal ethnicity. And I know it's a little harder because of the Filipino subgroup.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the SAT performance by schools. As you can see, Jefferson received a mean score of 916, Oceana 1,079, Terra Nova 1,080, and Westmore at 1,019. I know that the two tests are different. But what we wanted to see is how did our students compare with the Smarter Balanced Assessment scores and the SAT scores. So our seniors right now took the Smarter Balanced last year. So this is the same exact group of students who took the CASP last year and then the SAT this year. As you can see for English, it's very close, about 60 to 61%. For math, however, they did better on the SAT. PSAT, so we had our 9th grade, our 10th grade and 11th grade students also took the PSAT. So their 9th graders took a test called PSAT 8/9. And as you can see, the mean score is 880 for our district. And again, it's higher than the state level and the total group. So this report came from College Board, and they did not disaggregate, they did not remove our Shasta students. So that 1,066 included Shasta students. And I had already made a request to College Board to see if we can filter out a charter school next year.
That question was coming.
Just because, it's under control. I mean, we can combine them, but just like with the state database, we can include charter schools or we can exclude charter schools.
Question?
Yes.
I was just going to ask about the Thornton students. I know they didn't take the SAT, and I remember Dr. Laurie said they would take something else for placement.
Yeah, so we didn't have enough time this year, but what happened this year is Skyline came out and got students enrolled in Skyline and had them take placement tests. The goal next year is to actually bring them to Skyline so they can do all that work at Skyline.
But are they included with that 1,000 whatever, the total of the 10-6, they're not included with the
They're not
10-6
included.
because it's a different school and different.
It's not that they couldn't take the test, they could, but when you talk to the students about what their plans are for after
Right,
graduation, it made more sense to focus on getting them
Right, it's just
enrolled.
not, the option is there, but
Yes.
they're just, if you
Yes.
choose or not, okay.
Yes.
So what we could explore for the following year is, let's, give the students the opportunity that if they do want to take the SAT, that they could, either go to one of our school sites and take the SAT school there. And
Yes,
Dr.
that's an
Marenko and I
option,
were
yeah.
talking about that. Oh, so this is the PSAT 9 performance by school. Jefferson 834, Oceana 938, Terranova 908, and Westmore at 867 out of a total score of 1440. Now for the 10th grade students, our district did better in comparison to the state. However, it scored a little lower when it was compared to international students and national students. And again, just keep in mind that almost all of our students took this test. For some of the schools, it's, voluntary. So we have 978 students that took the PSAT 10, and there are 35% that met both benchmarks for reading and math. And this is the performance by each of the school site level: Jefferson 866, Oceana 948, Terranova 946, and Westmore 897. And finally, for 11th grade students, district score is 977 out of 1,550. It is higher than the state, and again, lower than the total group. And with this group, there are 37% that met both the reading and the math benchmark. And these are the scores per school site. 890 for Jeff, Oceana 1,017, Terranova 1,000, and Westmore 985. So again, the purpose for all of this is we're trying to measure college and career readiness, just as our vision says, of to and through post-secondary learning and careers. Back in October, Dr. Deloyer had presented the class of 2018 senior survey exit results. And according to that presentation, and again, this is self-reported, 93% of our students, class of 2018, entered a 2-year or a 4-year college. And so we had finally received our data from National Student Clearinghouse. We've been trying for many, many years to make sure that, this is working, and we finally got it right this time. And I'm so happy to report that we have verified data. So what we want to see is, did the 93% students really enrolled in one of either a 2-year or 4-year high school? Or college, sorry. So according to this, 26% entered a 4-year college and it's verified. In a 2-year college, only 46% were verified. There were 28% where there is no college that verified any enrollment. So 72% are the only ones that got a verification that they were actually enrolled in a first year of college. And what we are going to be able to do is to track this year after year and see who continues second year and third year and fourth year and what major they graduated with.
As well as the, and their graduation, time of graduation.
Yes.
Excellent.
And this is broken down by 68% went to a public school, 4% went to a private college, 70% in-state, and 2.5 out of state. So our counselors saw this information about a month ago, and what they would like to do in the summer is really dig deep into this data and figure out what happened with the 28%. Because if we're claiming, if they're self-reporting that 93% are entering a college of some kind, what happened with the 20 or so percent?
Does that count for like trade schools and stuff like that?
It does not.
Or the military.
Or, okay, so.
but it's higher than what was self-reported, so there's a discrepancy still. Like that's a lot of students going to trade school or, you know, so there's something.
Yeah, that was like a 5% figure.
Yeah, so there's.
And what we really want to find out is like, what is their root cause? Is it, did they receive an F, you know, in an English class second semester and didn't get in? Did we, you know, did they not fill in a financial aid form and wasn't able to afford college? So what we want to do is, you know, let's look at these students and make contact. This is what they even suggested, perhaps through an email, we'll just kind of just follow up on where they are.
And I love that that's coming from our counselors. It's the counselors who want to do that. So it's not top down here, it's counselors have an interest in reaching out, figuring out where those students went.
Yeah, and then, you know, and also taking into consideration, going through this myself right now, and I know that getting in is so much different than, like, being accepted is so much different than getting in, right? The process to get in and enroll in college is insane. Where I was confused a lot of the times and had to really lean on the financial aid counselors to really figure out, you know, how does the financial aid apply, what loans we could qualify for. So if you're coming from a household where you don't have an active parent that can help guide you through that process, I don't know how you do that alone. So I think that might also be a factor in it.
Yeah, I mean, there's that 13% gap between, on the two-year college.
Right, and Skyline is not easy to enroll either. You know, it's equally challenging.
Really great data, though.
So the 72% of students, where they ended up, and this is in order of acceptance. So most of our students entered Skyline College, followed by City College of San Francisco, then San Francisco State, and so on and so forth. And so this data was actually shared during when the counselors visited the middle schools, because we're talking, our focus is college and career readiness. But what we did not want to do is scare our parents and our students saying, oh, you're just gonna go to Skyline College, that, you know, it's not a four-year college where it's your top #1 school. So what we had included in this slide is, you know, the reasons why students choose to enter Skyline College or community college, even though they are qualified to be A through G eligible, because we did show the A through G eligibility rate, which is much higher than this. So some of the reasons that we gave is that, you know, it's free for the first year of college through Promise Scholarship, it's closer to home, saves money when you're completing your general education. They have a variety of certification and programs in their smaller class sizes.
And so another thing that I think Skyline does really well that we could probably just copy is that they do a really good job filming those students, talking about their reasons why they did these certain things, like filming the Promise Scholars. And so doing that same thing, because that's why my daughter went to Skyline, is because 2 years for pretty much for free. I mean, the first year was completely free, and the second year cost me total $500 compared to the $22 that I'm paying right now. You know, $22,000 from $500 to $22,000 is a big jump. So, you know, I think it's giving parents that information. I think, especially coming from the students, would be extremely helpful.
And if we look at these colleges too, again, it's not just California, because you'll be able to see other colleges outside of California. And there's some Ivy Leagues there too.
There's also a lot of community colleges outside the area, too.
There's some nice ones.
So again, some of the findings is that JUHSD performed fairly well on the SAT and the PSAT, and we're going to continue to administer the test the following year. There's still an achievement gap that exists in the SAT and the PSAT, which is similar to the gaps in the Smarter Balanced Summative Assessment. And again, the self-reported matriculation is much higher than the actual verified enrollment. So what we need to do is, you know, do more investigation on why that is. And also, what we would like to do for the next step is we want to continue to monitor the class of 2018 and their persistence in college to really test out our vision of to and through. And again, find out the reasons why they're not enrolled in college when they claim to be attending a college and a university. Is there something that we can do on our end, or is it something that, you know, we can help our students so that they can attend the 2-year or 4-year college? We're gonna spend some time in the summer to analyze, we're gonna spend time analyzing the score reports with the teachers, with the SAT and the PSA, or the PSAT, to help them inform instruction. So in January, College Board came to do a presentation for our counselors and vice principals on how to read the reports, but the second part of that is that we will be inviting our department heads so that they can learn on what the College Board reports, what we can do to help inform instruction, and also provide some resources for our students to practice their skills. So for instance, through Khan Academy. And also, I just want to say that on March 21st, Oceana High School their PTA will be hosting a parent night where CCGI, College Career Guidance Initiative, which is our 4-year planning tool, will be introduced to parents. And also, I will be providing a presentation to the parents on how to read the PSAT score reports. I got a verification today from Mr. Bashir's that Jefferson High School will hold one on the Daly City side as well. We just need to find a date soon.
Are the schools still having the, I remember we did it like in 2015 or years before, but do we still have the SAT class that we did after school? I don't know if anybody remembers, but we used to do the SAT class.
Like a prep course?
Yeah, prep course after, are we still doing that?
You know, I was asking about that because now that I'm teaching, I was wondering, what are we doing for free for students? Because sometimes it's just a matter of taking the test. It isn't, the best way to learn the content is go to class every day. But there's some value in taking a class to learn how to take the actual test. So I know at Terra Nova, for example, the Ed Foundation is actually paying for a very kind of abbreviated SAT prep course. But it is something Ms. Bach and I have been talking about. So my fantasy world is that everyone gets to take it and everyone gets a prep course. So we'll see
Otherwise,
about
you
that.
study on your own time to prep for it. Okay.
Well, you know, there are some things, there are parent resources and student resources, and through the College Board site, the Khan Academy actually sponsors a free SAT prep. So getting that word out to everybody, and, you know, hopefully if the board approves that information officer support for me, I can have someone who works with me to well educate all the parents so they understand all of the free resources that there are out there.
When I took it, I think I only knew about Kaplan. So my mom, I was fortunate to be able to take that. If there was
How
free one, they
expensive
probably
was
would.
that?
I'm sure it's very expensive. So to be able to have free resource, I think it's so, if that's just the hurdle that you need to take the test better, it's like, you know, gosh, you know, just to improve on the
Maybe
score.
we could have some like information meetings after, I know we do sometimes, but maybe like more broadcasted so people can know about these free resources, because some people go into these SATs blind because they're like, I learned this all in class, but sometimes we don't know exactly what we're learning about in class or what to actually glean from it and put into the test.
I had to be careful how often I email parents, but I did send an email out about a month ago letting them know, hey, if your child's taking the SAT this spring, the College Board has this free SAT prep and here's the link for it. So did you see that? Okay, it's good to, so I don't know how many people actually like, oh, the superintendent delete, or whether, you know, whether people
Urgent, Terry, urgent.
But I agree with you. I think, you know, parents are busy working and we've got to figure out multiple ways to communicate vital information.
Yeah, and plus a lot of them don't use the internet like a lot of kids do. So maybe they'll be like, oh, a kid will like look at their parents' email and be like, oh, more work, delete for my parent, and then.
Oh, never had that.
But they could be like that, or like maybe the parent doesn't understand English, or
Very
they
true.
don't,
That is, yes.
or they don't know the emails.
Ms. Bell, did we have a blue card on this agenda item?
Well, I was gonna comment.
Okay.
Lisa Uyedri O'Brien?
Yeah.
very interesting. But, so I had a brief question about some of the information that Ms. Baca presented. My name is Lisa Waichi-O'Brien. I'm a parent at Terra Nova, and I actually would like to thank the district for providing these tests for the students as a free manner and during the school day so that all the students can participate. I think that was a tremendous thing for our students, in part because I think students that think that they might not be college material may actually see that they can do it. So thank you so much for that. One of the interesting points that came up on one of the early slides that you had was that something like 40% of the students that took the test met the targets that they had, and compared with the state and nationwide projections, which was I think somewhere in the 20s. I mean, as a community, isn't that discouraging to think that only 40% of the students who are graduating are projected to get a C in their freshman courses? And, you know, I would just encourage you to really, you know, as a parent and seeing kind of how difficult it is to run education, public education in the United States, that you know, maybe we need to set our targets a little bit higher. I mean, the purpose of an education is to create or to generate an informed citizenry, correct? And for our students or the next generation of students, of citizens to be able to make informed decisions. So if we feel that, you know, not every student has to go, you know, go on to college, and I understand that, but for only 40% of our student population to be able to possibly make a C, that seems kind of astonishing to me. And that nationwide, that benchmark is even lower. So I know that this is, you know, this is on your hearts as well, but are you guys astonished at this number? I am. So I guess that's all I really have to say.
Thank you very much. Yep. Go ahead, Mr. Archifanti. You had something?
Of course. So thank you for your comments. And even just in line with that, I think a lot of the things, thank you for the work in terms of presenting the data. It's always good to see that we have a fuller picture of who's going and where they're going. And even if they're not reporting where they're going, you know, what the discrepancies are, because there are discrepancies. Little known facts, many universities, the retention rate at the university level is like in the 40th percentile. So college, people leaving, coming and going to college, graduating later, non-traditional students, those are all part of that number, but it's a reality that those retention services and outreach that we do in terms of preparing our students is not mirrored at the college level. It's unfortunate, and that's something that we necessarily, I guess, broadcast to our students is, yeah, at the college level, there's a lot less support, and it's highly likely that some of your friends will just not finish up, at least not in the time frame. But I think just to speak to the numbers we're looking at, I think it's important, one, looking at the conversation about the SAT and the CASP in terms of which is more relevant for our students. I think the discrepancy in showing demographics, where particularly white students are outperforming, thank you, yeah, the slide there, on the SAT reflects the conversation that we know is that the SAT is not a perfect test, and beyond that, it is biased. And so the cultural bias in that is a further discussion in terms of our students and how do we communicate why test prep is important. Is a common conversation in education is that standardized testing is not a reflective measure or a comprehensive assessment of student knowledge and being an informed citizenry, which is probably should be one of the main things that we teach our students to be, you know, civically engaged and responsible people, and of course well-informed. But these numbers are reflective of maybe the last 20, 30 years, I'm not sure. I know these last 10, 20 years that I've seen, it hasn't changed much, which often we echo is that it's not our students that aren't smart. These tests aren't smart. So a smarter balanced test might be a better measure, but I would be interested in seeing if the state, if we are to opt out of the CASP in terms of like our statewide assessment, what is the CASP aiming to do that the SAT isn't doing, and will the SAT be altered, or what is being integrated into the SAT, or are we just going back to a national standard where we know it's not as reflective and not as equitable in terms of reflecting on our students' knowledge and experiences, and their families' experiences, because like I wasn't pushed through all this. In fact, my family was like, you know, those tests are BS, you know, it's not that important. But I knew it was important into getting into college and a college of my choice. And so even though when I was studying for those tests, I felt like it wasn't necessary, a lot of our students will have that perspective if they're not pushed even at the school level. And so I just want to give a shout out to all of our staff that is doing that because our career centers are working overtime and doing all these things to other students. I guess the question I would have there is, in terms of the suggestion and bridging, what we're doing to and through, what kind of outreach and retention programs or like, I guess modeling, can we like kind of suggest between what we're doing at the high school level in our district level, and with the junior colleges and the four-year universities? Because a lot of our students do go to 4 years, bounce back to 2-year, and vice versa, of course transferring, but it takes longer than they thought. And so I know at San Francisco State, as great as State is, the outreach and retention services are not comprehensive and not well organized in terms of creating a place where students know exactly where to go unless they have EOP services. There are like, there's CARP, there's SAC, there are some places where they can go, but there aren't that many. And so I'm wondering if school districts at the high school level, I'm not sure, Dr. Deloria, if your experience mirrors that in the LA area, but in Santa Monica, but like, what can we do in terms of creating that movement, at least with Skyline, which are the biggest partner, and maybe City College?
What was the question?
And building outreach and retention programs and modeling where we have that strong communication in terms of who's enrolling, the follow-up, retaining them during their first year. Maybe it's a first-year student or a transfer student centers to have that communication with high school districts. So our follow-up will be stronger, I think, than JC to the 4-year. Those are very touch and go.
We have a much closer relationship with Skyline College right now. They have reached out to us and we've reached out to them in making sure that when our students enter their college, that they are well supported. As I mentioned in my previous presentation, their Disability Resource Center, their Associate Superintendent of Student Services had reached out to me, making sure what can we do to help your students with disability. So that continuous communication and just all the time, and also communicating with our schools as well as to what services is being provided would also help. And Skyline, I know that has a lot of events that they present, but what they're finding difficulties with is transportation and busing and just reserving charter buses. So they had actually reached out to me and say, can we pay you for your own buses instead of us getting, charter so that we can transport your schools to our major events. So I just connected them with Marcus Peppers, our Director of Transportation, to help, bridge what the barriers are. So, just continuous communication with the colleges and also with our school sites would help.
So just briefly, just so we can move on, to your question, yeah, I mean, it's not shocking to me because we've been doing this for so long, but it still weighs heavily on all of our hearts, and it's something that we all work towards, is to making sure that when our students leave us, that they're ready for life regardless of what that life is, whether it's college or if it's going into a job. So the SAT may not be a perfect measure for every student, but it is one measure in line with the lots of other measures, and they all seem to be pointing towards the same thing. So I think that the evidence is pretty clear that there's some work that we need to do, and that work has started, and we hope to continue, and especially, in my opinion, the development of our principals and site administration staff, and then also moving down into our teaching staff. So really seeing what we can do to focus our funding on how can we help our teachers and administration prepare our students, and what do they need, and more of a, not punitive, because everything is always so negative, especially when we use data. Data gets used as a weapon sometimes, so I think teachers can tune out. But really saying, this is not where we want to be, so what do you need to help us elevate everybody so we can get to a higher level of achievement for our students. So I'm really looking forward, like, to the LCAP coming back and having those discussions. The other concern that I have, again, is if we do move to the SAT and they don't allow us to break out by significant subgroup, then I feel like we do need to track our significant subgroups, and that if we can't break out Philam or Pacific Islander Polynesian, then that's problematic. So,
We could do that internally.
yeah, is there? and
But
I
if the
was gonna-
state does that adoption, that's a requirement under ESSA anyway.
Okay, so if we could do that, is it possible to do that now? You know what I'm saying?
Perhaps through Data Zone, they will be
Okay.
able to disaggregate this data for us.
Okay, cool. So that's all I have.
I mean, this is really a great start because, to your question, actually, I mean, this is really the first time we're seeing this data all at once, especially with all the SAT scores and PSAT scores. So, I mean, this is actually an amazing amount of data as a starting point. And same with the college matriculation, which is absolutely incredible. And it just makes me, it's all about us up here connecting the dots. Why are we doing the things that we're doing so that it comes out here and what we're doing in impacting the students. We're building houses so that we can keep teachers so they can focus on this and they don't have to worry about not finding a place to live. I mean, it's all connected, and that's what's exciting for me when we're up here doing this work.
Right, and that was one key piece. I mean, it doesn't help for us to continue to train a staff that continues to turn over. So
Right.
it's not just one thing, it's a multitude of variety of different things. So yeah, I completely agree.
So, thank you so much for the presentation. Yes, oh yeah.
May I?
Absolutely. Oh, you? Yeah, sure.
Because I am filled with hope. So a couple of things. I share your disappointment nationally. But there are things, as our scores were higher, yes, but there are still things that we could be doing easily that don't cost anything, that will cause those scores to bounce up. Many of the students who took the PSAT last fall had never taken any kind of test similar to that. Remember, these are students who, their last state test was in 8th grade. In the olden days, in CSTs, we used to give a test in grade 9, in grade 10, in grade 11. We could track how students were doing. We have nothing. There was this big data void from the end of 8th grade to 11th grade. So we had 11th graders taking a really important test who hadn't had much experience other than their driver's license test, maybe, if they took that. So I know we don't have to expect students to take a Kaplan course. I had already talked with Ms. Baca and Ms. Van Raphorst. Can't we put some money aside to pay people? Because that's what I used to do as a math teacher. Every school had a couple of math teachers who would run a couple of Saturday workshops over a period of 6 weeks that included a pre and a post real PSAT. And just the improvement because you had that experience of taking the test. But you know what? That can actually be done in math classes. So think about what it looks like in a math class in September if part of your warm-ups, one of your warm-ups is, oh, and here's a PSAT question from 2014, and up it is on the. So there are a lot of little things that we can do, and it's just letting people know and kind of coordinating that. In terms of the SAT data. Remember, the reason we give PSAT in 11th grade, one of the reasons, is there's still time to do something to make the senior year productive, okay? So making sure that students, if they're not in an AP class in 12th grade, in English or math, then making sure they're in a productive English class that's very expository based, or in the appropriate math class, you want to do that. Some of the students who took the SAT weren't even in a math class. So keep that in mind too, and they took that test with, they hadn't seen math since the June before, so it's something to keep in mind. One of the things that Ms. Baca's working on is developing that scope and sequence for math. And part of that is understanding, yes, we want to teach the standards, but we also want to work with the teachers to take a look at the PSAT and the SAT. And what are those things that are on the PSAT and SAT that aren't necessarily part of state standards, but they're good math and you got to learn it. So there are things on the test that our students aren't learning because they're not a state standard. Yet they stand the test of time in math. I love that expression. So that's one of the things we're going to take a look at is what should we be adding because kids are getting ready for them. We don't talk to the students about tests. I mean, just talking to students about the importance of and that's what we saw in October was the effect of when the whole school rallies together, everyone's going to take this test. What can we do to do well? That's something we should be talking about with our students every day. Why are the tests even important? You know, why is it important to you? We talked in class, my math class today, about why are we learning this trig stuff when the truth is architects have software to do all this. Well, the truth is, you gotta get through these math classes to get into college, and then you gotta get through your college classes in math so you can get into your architecture program, et cetera, et cetera. We don't talk to students about that, so we need to talk about that. And I wanted to connect to the work that the Student Advisory Council is doing, because they have some really important data that I know that they're eager to share with us. And one of the things we hear over and over again is that we're not working with students in class on the non-academic skills students need that I think would be helpful in that persistence data. So yay that the National Clearinghouse is going to give us data on how many kids actually came back after their first year of college. But in the meantime, what are those things that we could be doing with our students right now to help them persist once they get there? And the last thing I want to say, I know I'm really long-winded tonight, is that for a number of years, I don't know how long, students have been leaving our middle schools at the end of June because they're all done in that district. And then they go all summer long and come to us. And for those students who maybe weren't the strongest math students, they had 3 months off and then they had to jump right into Math Course 1. And so this year, we're actually, based on data, reaching out to those districts to identify who those students are so they can come and get a jump start in math in the summertime so they're not starting cold. Another transition service. But things are happening and I'm really feeling hopeful. I think it's going to improve.
If nothing else, we'll move on to item 15B, 1 through B6, since we've moved that item out of consent. So let's turn it over to you,
Okay.
Dr. Dwyer.
Well, B1 through 5 are actually new revisions that I'm asking you to look at. So I don't know if you have, I did have them kind of listed in the recap. Any questions? Nothing controversial in any of those. I'm happy to answer any of those questions before we move to the bylaws. Okay, all right, then the bylaws.
All right, BB 9124, Ms. Alvin, you had a specific question regarding it.
So I pulled it because here in the bylaw currently says that individual board members, other than board president, may not seek district legal counsel on matters of district business unless authorized by the majority of the board, and I just don't understand that. You know, not to go through all negative history, but previously, and Rosie may remember this, like if we weren't allowed to go to county council without getting a majority of the board, a lot of things, especially our former CBO was doing things that were not legal, and we needed to go to county council, and if we had to get to the majority of the board permission, we would not have been able to go. So,
Is it something that you could have talked to the superintendent then about?
no.
So the ask is that we not have a majority of the board to approve that?
I just don't understand why, because the county council is the board council is board council, so I don't understand why I need permission to talk to my attorney.
I'll just share from Claire. The reason for this language is so that you don't have individual members going to council all the time and having a superintendent out of the loop.
Well, if that ever becomes an issue, then I would say we take it up at that time, but like I reach out to her a couple, not a ton of times, I mean, I'm sure she would have said something to you, but I ask her, like, is this a violation, like, especially questions about the Brown Act, if it's something that's timely and I have to wait until a board meeting to ask permission if I could talk to her, I mean, that just seems like.
Waiting too long.
Right.
In that case, that is a good point. I'm concerned with this policy exists because in most circumstances, it would be more likely the case that this is a safeguard against, a lack of transparency with other board members and why county council is being approached on something. I don't know if I'm not sure if there's an exception to that or some other part of the bylaws that address that point, because that is a good point.
Well, it's your bylaw, so, I think you all need to.
I mean, to be fair, I'm fine with it staying, I'm fine with it not being in there. I understand why it shouldn't be there, given recent history, but on the other hand, are we Are we taking something out because we're afraid of that situation occurring again? You know, I mean, I'm okay either way, so I'll leave it actually to the rest of you to decide on which way. I'm fine either way.
How would you like it to, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, how would you like to address it, I guess?
I just don't understand why that's there. I would just ask for that piece to be removed.
removed.
Yeah, because I don't understand why we're putting a limitation on our access to our attorney.
Right. It's like asking the
I mean,
Right.
that's fair. I'm good with striking it. But Nick, did you have something?
I would say that maybe instead of striking it, we can take an added approach to it to add that exception where, I can't think of any other exceptions, to be honest. I don't know that I would seek county counsel for anything other than things I would refer to other board members about, because we make decisions as a board, whether we're in open or closed session.
Right, but it's, me talking to county counsel isn't me making a board decision, it's just me getting advice from my legal counsel.
Which is what I'm saying, in terms of, instead of taking a reductive approach and striking it out altogether, we should maybe add that exception to the rule that we have.
What's the exception?
That in cases of, like if it's something to do with a Brown Act violation or something that was unique to one board member's concerns, then that would be the case. But I think it kind of goes with, it strikes me as something that goes along with transparency and accountability is why you would need a majority board approval to access your attorney, though it makes complete sense what you're saying is you shouldn't need a board approval for complete, any access. So,
To your attorney, yeah.
So you should have both. In cases where,
Because you're only asking for advice, it's not like
Right,
you
I'm
can make
not-
any
I'm not-
decision,
right.
like, just for clarification.
And you're not acting on behalf of the entire board.
Right.
No,
And
you're
they're
just asking a question.
And no one knows that more than our attorney, because
Yeah.
they're really familiar
Because
with all the laws.
Because I have in the past conferred with county counsel on some issues, and I wasn't president, and it wasn't an issue.
Right, it's not like these are life and death
So-
decisions,
so-
it's just more like, oh, I'm not sure of the
How do I
legal
handle the
question.
situation?
Right,
Or
so
Brown
let me
Act or
just
whatever.
reach out to county
So,
counsel. That's what they're
so we
there
could
for.
rewrite this to just simply say individual board members may seek legal advice, may seek advice from district legal counsel on matters of district business, period.
Okay.
Or you can just remove
Or
it.
remove language.
Yeah.
question, is there a CSBA recommendation or candidate for this?
Recommendation was
That
to have
is-
it, but if we have a preference to strike it, that's fine too. So,
Do we know the-
so does somebody want to throw out a motion for proposed language for 9124?
What was, I mean, yeah, I mean,
Or if you want to move to strike that one phrase, I mean, just a motion to do that so we can take a.
yeah, I make a motion to strike the language.
And the 2 citations at the whole.
Yes.
Is there a second?
And the 2 citations?
There's 2 citations.
Yeah,
only.
is it?
I don't know, is it for that individual thing? Is it for this specific,
I think that,
the citations are for
I
just?
think it's one of the citations, probably. Yeah, it's probably.
All right, so pending that, but the language, we're okay with striking the language. Okay, all right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, so motion passes to approve that.
So I'll bring this back to the next meeting then.
Yeah.
for approval.
Yep. Great, thank you. All right, item 16A1, resolution number 2018/19-21, notice of non-reelection of probationary certificated employees. Ms. Presta.
I'm scrolling down to find my language. So essentially, I'm just going to paraphrase. Essentially, the school districts have 2 years in which to non-reelect a probationary teacher, and the board needs to pass a resolution in order for us to do that. And so we are recommending that you pass this resolution. There's one teacher that we propose will be non-reelected. And if you approve the resolution, I will notify the teacher before March 15th.
Move that we approve resolution 2018/19-21.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, very good, thank you. Item 16B1, approval of contract with Compass Group USA for food services management. Ms. Van Raphorst.
Yay! I am very pleased to bring this contract to the board tonight, and it already has been reviewed and approved by the California Department of Education. So if the board accepts the contract as presented, there's a base contract and an extension. The base contract covers the rest of this school year, and the contract extension for the 1920 school year, then we will be in place for our food management company to begin on April 15th.
That's a good way to spend Tax Day. So
Meet you for lunch.
that's how my brain works. All right. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the contract with Compass Group USA Inc. for food services management.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Very good.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you,
Tina.
Ms. Van Rampers and students.
And yes. Item 16B2, second interim budget report, 1819.
Thank you. I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the executive summary so that I can talk through this a little bit. So the board each year is asked to certify our budget status in one of three ways: positive certification, qualified, or negative certification. And the report that is being presented to you tonight shows that the district will be able to make its financial obligations both this current school year and the subsequent 2 school years. So it's recommended that you accept the report tonight and certify a positive certification. But what I wanted to point out is just a few things. Is this report shows that there is a change from first interim, as there always is, and this is primarily due to the raises that were given between first interim and second interim in the salaries, as well as us being able to fill some positions, and that's really where most of the change is. And then just to point out that in the multi-year projection, we've made the assumptions that are similar to what we talked about in our board work study, where we have leveling enrollment. We're projecting even next year to have a slight increase in enrollment, but then it'll continue to decrease slowly after that. This year, the senior class is actually kind of small, and the incoming freshman class for next year is larger, so it's kind of a bubble. We have still some deficits shown for this year, a small deficit, but it's primarily for us using our one-time funds that were received in prior years. And then the subsequent 2 years, we don't show a deficit spending. We do have a reserve projected at around 12% for next year, and that is including already the 5% raise and the increase in the parcel tax. We'll have a more detailed projection when we do the budget adoption in June after the May revise. And after we incorporate some of the items that we were discussing in the work study. That's not incorporated yet. So I'd like to remind the board that we want to make sure that we're careful of maintaining a healthy reserve as we move further away from the LCFF formula. So being as a basic aid district, we are receiving more in property tax than we would receive from the state. And so that has to be our fallback position. We'll always get what the state allocates, and so as we get further away from the state allocation, we'll have to protect ourselves more from recession. I think that's about all I wanted to highlight in this. If there are any questions or comments, happy to address them.
I think it's pretty remarkable that actually when you take out that 150,000 transfer out, we're essentially at a break even. You know, that's pretty remarkable. So, nice work.
You can thank the property taxes for going up
no,
10.1% this year.
No, absolutely.
Thank you.
And there's a lot of property for sale. It's like I go around, yay!
Property for sale.
So, well then, is there a motion to accept the second interim?
Motion to accept.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Still your show, Ms. Van Raaphorst. 16B3, acceptance of 2017-18 Measure
The
J
last
obligation
thing,
bonds
Daly, was
audit
the last
report.
thing. I'm just kidding.
No, you're good.
So the last item tonight is the bond audit. There were no findings, and it's the opinion of our auditors that we complied with all the compliance requirements for our bond funds for last fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018. So the board is asked to accept the findings of the auditors.
Especially when we have this wonderful banner here.
Is there a motion to accept the 17-18 Measure J obligation bonds audit report?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Item 17, consideration of future agenda items. Any takers? All right then, is there a motion to adjourn? Not everybody all at once now. All those in favor?
Comments for the
Oh,
adjournment. We adjourn tonight's meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right, where is it?
Would you like me to read it?
Yeah, if you have it up, go ahead and read it, please. I'm sorry, I didn't even, it's not on the agenda.
We adjourn tonight's meeting in honor of Leatrice Strickland, mother-in-law of Grace Strickland, principal of Westmore High School. Mrs. Strickland passed away on Thursday, February 14th, 2019. Leatrice Strickland was a devoted wife of 65 years. She was very involved in church and taught a ladies' Bible study for 20 years. She was a great friend and had a gift of listening to others. She was also a great mother who taught many life lessons. Her daily routine included reading the newspaper, devotionals, and various literature. Her greatest gift was being a peacemaker. We send our condolences to Grace Strickland, her husband, and the Strickland family, along with a host of their family and loved ones.
Thank you. I think we already had the, thank you, Mr. Hatter. I think we already had the motion in the second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Meeting adjourned at 8:54 p.m.
Hopefully you still want to join the board now.
Oh, we just noticed that you just don't even